think a lot of you did come out for this anniversary day to kind of get enthusiastic about the next coming year and what we're going to do to continue to promote justice. So I'm really proud to introduce our guest, Matt Meyer, here this morning. Christine and I have seen Matt perform in so many different venues, but he does that magic of melding social justice and music together. And I think for a lot of us, when we think about social justice, what goes on inside our brains one way or another is some song that resonates with social justice activity. But before we start that, I did want to give a little personal plug for a book that Matt has written, which is already been sold out from the first edition and on a second edition, called Desmond Gets Free. And it's a wonderful story really about why people need to get involved in social justice. Doesn't hit you over the head, just does it nice and subtly, both for children and for adults. Matt has quite a resume, starting with School of Music, or the Berklee School of Music. So he knows music well, studied around the world, specifically with regard to percussion. And he's just amazing what he can do with his hands in terms of rhythm. And what's even more amazing, he's going to get you to do the same thing. So without further ado, here's Matt Meyer. Let's give him a big Justice Southbury welcome.
Yes, it's
Don't appreciate your neutrality.
It's based on a quote by Desmond Tutu, who said, "If you say you're neutral in situations of injustice, you are a liar, because you have already taken sides with the powerful and you have taken sides with the oppressor. And if an elephant is standing on the tail of a mouse, the mouse will never appreciate your neutrality." So it's the story of a mouse named Desmond trying to get free. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. Oh, it's gone on far too long. Oh, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. This is a song written by a woman named Yara Allen, who's a theologian and a song leader, and she's the lead song leader for the Poor People's Campaign. Any of you all familiar with the Poor People's Campaign with Dr. William Barber? It's an incredible movement picking up where Dr. King left off with the Poor People's Campaign, to build a mass mobilization of working class people that centers racial justice and really speaks to how racial justice is at the center of every progressive cause in the United States. And she tells the story of how, at every meeting, at every rally, Reverend Barber would ask her to sing at some point. But one time she was just particularly unprepared for it. They were at a city council meeting where the water, particularly in the communities of color, had been poisoned with all kinds of chemicals, and they were calling for an end to that. And then he just kind of suddenly looked over and he said, "Yara, you got a song for us?" And she just made up this song on the spot. And she just started singing it and figured out what it was as she went. So I'm going to invite you to join along. I'll sing it again on my own. It goes like this. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. Oh, it's gone on far too long. Oh, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. There's a song that goes way back to the 30s at least, written by Florence Reese, called "Which Side Are You On?" It might be the theme song for my Don't Be Neutral children's book. But I love this song, and I was definitely a little challenged by it when I first heard it many years ago. It says, you're either, in this county, you're either with the Union or you're a thug for J.H. Blair, is one of the verses. And it's written in honor and to support striking coal miners, I believe it was. It was only many years later, I thought that was kind of a harsh thing to say, that you're either with the Union or you're a thug for the boss. But what I didn't know until later was that she wrote that verse after thugs for J.H. Blair had come to her home asking for her husband, who was union organizer, and looking to maybe be done with him, or at least put him in the hospital and incapacitate him. And I can only imagine the fear of what that was like, to experience that, to open the door and see people coming for your family. And I think that emotion comes out in the song that she wrote, Which Side Are You On? And that story reminds me of Patricia, one of the founders of Black Lives Matter. In her autobiography, shares very similar stories of the riot police coming to her home because they were looking for a black man who may or may not have looked a little bit like one of her family members. And so police in riot gear showed up and locked down her whole neighborhood and went looking for some suspect who all they could say about him was that he was a black man. And so those thugs are still showing up at people's homes, at innocent people's homes, with weapons way beyond what the union busting thugs of the 30s could have ever dreamed of. So Black Lives Matter has adapted this song in this moment to be a little bit different. So it goes like this. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? Can we try that? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? Again, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? And you know, in any movement building, we need to be looking back to our movement ancestors, those who taught us how to do the organizing that we do, those who taught us how to build community and come together, build power and make a change. And this song, in this new adaptation, is a calling in of those ancestors, the movement ancestors that taught us how to fight for justice. So we'll say, Ella Baker was a freedom fighter and she taught us how to fight. And we're gonna fight all day and night until we get it right. Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on, my people? Which side are you on? As a white person myself, I try and look to organizers of color who have, worked for justice and done the organizing that all those folks have done. And it's also important for me to be looking to white folks, the unfortunately relatively few white folks that have really risked something for racial justice, who have really stepped out and modeled for me, for white folks in my generation, what it means to go against the systems that have in some ways have benefited us at the cost of others, in some ways at the cost of our own souls and sanity. One of those is Anne Braden. Anne Braden was a very involved racial justice activist in the 50s. And when she and her husband helped a black man buy a house in a white neighborhood, she and her husband were accused of sedition. Because in the United States, it was a common thing to understand that racial inequality and that segregation was so foundational to the United States, people believed, that you couldn't fight for integration unless you were a communist, unless you were against the very fundamental purposes of this country, against the very DNA of the United States. And so for working against segregation to support this one family of color, they were tried for sedition. They eventually went free, but it was a long and arduous process. And for years, they continued that work in subtle ways, and their names aren't well known, partially because they spent all their time supporting the leadership of people of color. And so for me, that's a reminder of my own place in the movement and what my work is to do. Whether it's organizing other white folks to take more risks, whether it's supporting the leadership of people of color and other racial justice organizers. So I invite you to think about what your role is in this movement and how we can step into it and take those risks. This next song was written by, for a long while I was told, and this rumor went around that it was a South African freedom song. In fact, it was written by a Scottish singer-songwriter living in New Zealand, a man named Eric Bogle. And he's a wonderful singer-songwriter, but he wrote it when he was inspired by the role of music in the South African anti-apartheid movement, and how music was infused into that movement, and that's part of how we know that organizers and all kinds of folks got the courage to do the work of justice, even when it was so dangerous, even when it meant risking so much. And he spoke about, the songs that people would sing in the prisons to each other to keep each other's spirits up. And also music was part of how people got the courage to go into the streets and face down tanks, to face down a militarized police force. Can you imagine having to face down a militarized police force? Yeah, you can if you've seen any videos from Ferguson, right? Our society in some ways is looking more and more like the apartheid of South Africa, even though we have our own version of it. But this song is one that my community in Boston has sung for committee meetings and in rallies, and it's a wonderful song to get arrested to as well. And it's partially call and response and partially all together. So you can repeat after me for this first part. It goes call and response together, which maybe I think sounds more confusing than it is, but we'll give it a try. We'll see how we do. Courage, courage. Can we try that again? Courage. My friend, and this next part will be together. You do not walk alone. Let's try that. You do not walk alone. My turn. Courage. My friend, you do not walk alone. My part. We will walk with you, and sing your spirit home. Instead of the word courage, some people trade out other words. Or you can, one way, and folks I work with who've done it, is you can say the name of the person being hauled off by the police as they go, to wish them courage, to let them know that they're not on their own. Let's try it a little faster. Can we do this? Now sing out like you sing in the shower. You ready? Courage, courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. Singing is not just in movements, it's not just for giving us the courage and the strength to do the difficult work that is ahead of us, but I think also for holding the grief that is part of this work as well, for knowing what to do when you read the next headline about another shooting or more acts of police violence, more stats about mass incarceration. And I like that this song really kind of balances both of those, to not only hold the beauty of the world that is possible and the beauty of the people around us, but also the pain that is a part of this work. And I believe, it's a little unclear, but I believe it was written by an indie punk rock band in Montreal named the Silver Mount Zion Orchestra. This is a punk rock song. It goes like this. When the world is sick, can't no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can't no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. That's the whole thing. When the world is sick, can't no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can't no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. 2 more times. When the world is sick, can't no one be well? but I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. You know that racial justice work is just, the racism is intertwined with just every other system, every other structure in our society. It is part of the founding DNA of this country, and to unravel it means working on a lot of different fronts. And just one of those these days where I think there are particularly some pains and also I hope some opportunities are for immigration justice and immigration work. There's a national movement called Cosecha working for dignity for all immigrants, documented and undocumented. And they're building kind of a mass movement of undocumented immigrants to change some of the basic assumptions and create some kind of fundamental shifts about our understanding of immigration and what that means in this country. And I was part of a really beautiful action in Boston where Cosecha asked citizens, people, those of us like me with papers, those of us who are documented by whatever means, to take an action to shut down the local immigration detention center in Boston. And the Cosecha folks who kind of acted as support. It was kind of this inside-out thing where some of us who were able to do this took more risk of getting arrested, and the undocumented folks even still risked more than us who were sitting down in front of the doors there just by being there, being the social media people or being present at all. And so a group of us, about 17 of us, we sat down in front of the big sliding doors of the detention center. And one of my favorite moments of this was that this officer came out of the detention center, well, couldn't get out, so kind of from the side. And he stood in front of us and he said, "Do you realize that you are blocking entrance to a federal prison?" And it's just not every day that I get such clear affirmation of my work. Most of my days are spent like sending emails and looking at my computer, and I just spent all day, and at the end of the day there's as many emails in there as there were when I started, and it's just it's not often that somebody just shows up and stands in front of me and said, "You did today exactly what you came here to do." And so I particularly loved that moment. And on the way to that, as we were walking from the meeting point to those doors, a friend of mine, Ida Sefa, of Ethiopian heritage, taught me this song by a group called the Peace Poets. Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza, la libertad es la única bandera. Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza. Listen, my people, we bring the power. La libertad es la única bandera. Liberty is the only flag. Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza. La libertad es la única bandera. Listen, my people, my condor, my eagle. No human being can ever be illegal. Listen, my people, my condor, my eagle. No human being can ever be illegal. Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza. La libertad es la única bandera. Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza. La libertad es la única bandera. Listen, my people, my condor, my eagle. No human being can ever be illegal. Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza. La libertad es la única bandera. Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza. La libertad es la única bandera. Listen, my people, my condor, my eagle. No human being can ever be illegal. Listen, my people, my condor. my ego. No human being can ever be illegal. No human being can ever be illegal. I spoke at the Unitarian Church this morning about the Highlander Center for Community Organizing, a center of the labor movement in the 30s and a center for the civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s. It's where Dr. King and Rosa Parks went for training to learn how to do organizing and learn the skills of movement building. And it's also was a center of the music of the movement. They had a wonderful conference once that I love. I have a copy of an image of the flyer where they brought the civil rights singers of the North and the civil rights singers of the South, which were two totally different traditions, to come together at Highlander and sing together. And Highlander continues on in their work to this day. The government did shut them down for, I think, a few decades maybe, but they are back in action and doing important organizing today. And a friend of mine who actually passed away during the pandemic, Alandra Williams, was an organizer at Highlander. And she taught me this song that she learned from folks working for housing justice, particularly folks who were fighting being evicted. And this is a song about taking up some space and taking up having a place on this earth and making room for each other. And it's all call and response, which makes it very easy to do. But it starts out like this. Can you help me out with this? It's doing a little fast. Repeat after me. Solid as a rock, solid as a rock, rooted like a tree, rooted like a tree. I am here, standing strong, in my rightful place, in my rightful place. Solid as a rock, solid as a rock, rooted like a tree. I am here, standing strong, in my rightful place. Solid as a rock, solid as a rock, rooted like a tree. I am here, standing strong, in my rightful place. When I first learned this song, I didn't sing it much, in community or at rallies because, as I said, as a straight white middle-class man, claiming my rightful space is not necessarily my work to be done. Taking up more space is not necessarily my work to do. So now whenever I sing this song, I think of what my role is in movement building, what my role is in community. It's learning to ask more questions and listen more, rather than be quick to make statements. It's learning when it's helpful to grab the mic and speak up, and when it's helpful to pass the mic on to the next person. And so I invite you to think about what your own role is, what is your growing edge, what is your work to do in this movement, who are you here to support. Let's do just one climate song for climate justice. As I said, racial justice is wrapped up and at the center in some ways of all the other issues of our time, and that certainly includes climate justice, that the folks who have been historically marginalized and pushed to the edges are being hit first and worst by the dangers of climate chaos. And so much of the responses we're seeing to climate chaos are just in line with the way that those who have resources have dealt with so many crises of the past, which is to build bigger homes, larger walls around their communities, more generators in their luxury condo buildings, to buy resilience for those who can afford it, rather than create a sustainable future for all of our children. This song is been very popular in a lot of climate justice rallies and protests in recent years. It goes like this. How's it go again? People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. Here we go. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. You can also say at fossil fuel protests, we've said keep it in the ground. Or my favorite, if you are with maybe on the more radical end of the spectrum with some of us, you can say shut the system down, which is also an appropriate thing when we're talking about a lot of our energy policy these days. Let's try it all together. People gonna rise. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. One more time. People gonna rise like the water, gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. Nice. Woo! All right, let's finish up with one that is one of my favorites. It says, "Where you go, I will go, beloved." It comes from this from the story of the book of Ruth, one of only 2 books in the Bible named for a woman. And it comes when Ruth is married into this family, and she's talking with her mother-in-law. But both Ruth's husband and her mother-in-law, Naomi's husband, have both passed away. And Naomi's about to go on this very long and very dangerous journey, one that she knows she might not return from. And Ruth says, "I want to travel with you." And Naomi says, "You don't have to do that. You don't owe me anything. We're not related by blood." And she says, "No, your God is my God. Your divine is my divine. Where you go, I will go." She says, "We are family now because we've covenanted to travel together." And for me, that really sums up a lot of the justice work before us these days, that it is a long journey. It's one that we don't know exactly how well it's going to go, but it's a journey we have to make, and we have to make it together. So it goes like this. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Let's try that. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. One more time. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Next part goes like this. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Next part. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Thank you all to the organizers. Thank you to all of you who have been out here for 3 years now. Such incredible work, and it's a joy to travel together with you for today at least.
Thank you.
Thank you.